Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. In 1987, a squirrel bit a cable that carried the data from the NASDAQ stock market computers, causing it to go offline for almost 90 minutes. Nearly 20 million shares were not traded that day. In 1994, something similar happened with another squirrel that stopped the market for more than half an hour. Helicopters have a mechanism that prevents them from crashing at full speed if the engine stops working. It is called autorotation and takes advantage of the upward airflow during descent, making the blades spin and storing kinetic energy. This allows the pilot to slow down and perform a controlled landing, or at least reduce the force of impact compared to free fall. In the city of Dover, New Hampshire, United States, there is a commemorative plaque at the place where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird in 1983. Near Eastman's former home, there is a museum and a commemorative manhole cover. Small variations in eyebrows can change how a person is perceived. In experiments, when eyebrows were removed or altered in a photo, it became harder to recognize the face than when the eyes were removed. Another study found that people with more contrasted or thicker eyebrows are perceived as younger. About 31 miles from Paris, there lives a wild colony of Bennett's wallabies, animals similar to kangaroos native to Australia that escaped from a zoo in the 1970s. It is estimated that there are up to 150 individuals that have adapted to the local environment. When swimmer Michael Phelps won his 13th individual gold medal at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, he broke a record of more than 2,000 years by surpassing the athlete Leonidas of Rhodes, who had won 12 gold medals in the ancient Olympic Games. In 1897, the city of New York inaugurated a pneumatic tube system over 1¼ miles long that connected several postal buildings. On the first day, employees sent a package of books, a dozen eggs, and a cat, all transported through the tubes. Later, the system moved up to 95,000 letters per day. The cat suffered no harm. The Ford company paid for the Mustang GT car to appear in the famous, nearly 10-minute chase scene in the 1968 movie Bullitt, starring Steve McQueen. Thanks to that scene, more than 1 million Mustangs were sold the following year. The original car used in the movie was auctioned in the year 2020 for $3,400,000. The largest and heaviest Lego model ever built was a life-size Star Wars X-Wing. It contained 5,300,000 bricks. From end to end, it measured about 44 feet and weighed around 25 short tons. It was created by 32 expert builders in a total of 17,000 hours of work. It was presented in Times Square, New York, and later exhibited in Legoland, California. New York City's R32 subway trains entered service in 1964 and remained operational until the year 2022, with nearly 58 years of service, far exceeding their expected lifespan. These trains were notable for their high build quality. When they were retired, many were sunk into the Atlantic Ocean to serve as artificial reefs. The white bellbird has a courtship ritual that consists of approaching the female and emitting a call that exceeds 125 decibels just a few inches away. This sound represents the loudest bird call ever recorded. The volume is so extreme that researchers still wonder how it avoids hearing damage. While the European Union has 587 cars per 1,000 people, the United States has up to 910 per 1,000. This number increases notably in certain microstates, such as San Marino, with 1,600, or Andorra, with 1,000. In contrast, the places with the fewest vehicles per person are Somalia with 5, Togo with 8, and Madagascar with 9 per 1,000 inhabitants. Kangaroo rats, native to North America, are so well adapted to desert life that they could live their entire lives without drinking a single drop of water. This is possible because their kidneys are highly efficient and extract water from food through a metabolic process called oxidative phosphorylation. About 300 million years ago, giant insects similar to modern dragonflies, known as Protodonata, existed. They could reach up to 28 inches in wingspan, almost the size of an eagle. They were so large because at that time the air contained more than 30% oxygen, and birds, which act as predators today, did not yet exist. The higher the oxygen level, the larger the animals can become. Figs have a very particular relationship with wasps. To be pollinated, a wasp must enter the fruit to lay its eggs, becoming trapped inside. Some figs serve as shelters for new wasps to emerge, while others become pollinated. In the latter, natural enzymes dissolve the wasp's body inside the fruit. However, the figs consumed today come from a domesticated variety cultivated for thousands of years that no longer requires wasps for reproduction. The superhero, the Shield, bears a great resemblance to Captain America. Both had a shield with patriotic designs, fought against the same enemies, and obtained their powers in similar ways. Although the Shield appeared a few months earlier, the creators of this character threatened to sue Marvel, so Captain America's shield was changed to a circular one starting from issue number 2. On a coast near Sydney, Australia, there is an abandoned ship where trees began to grow. For that reason, it is known as the Floating Forest. It is the SS Airfield ship, built in 1911, which was retired from service in 1972, and its recycling was never completed. Disney considers its movie The Black Cauldron such a major failure that it practically ignores its existence. In Disney parks, the only thing related to this film was a food stand in Magic Kingdom, which closed in 1993, and part of the Cinderella Castle attraction in Tokyo, which featured an animatronic with the cauldron. That section closed in 2006. The first Honda motorcycles, manufactured in 1946, were adapted to run on turpentine, a liquid obtained by distilling pine resin and other coniferous trees due to the gasoline shortage. Additionally, the first engines they used came from surplus military radios. In Taiwan, there is a roller coaster that disconnects and reconnects with the main rail halfway through the ride, transitioning from a horizontal section to a completely vertical one. It is called Gravity Max and was inaugurated in the year 2002. It can carry 24 passengers and creates an extreme sense of vertigo. The custom of dividing the day into 24 hours comes from ancient Egypt, where it was divided into 12 hours of daylight and 12 of darkness, guided by 12 decans, which were stars that appeared sequentially during the night. They measured time with sundials during the day. Later, the Greeks adopted this system, and the Romans popularized it. The sexagesimal base for minutes and seconds was a Babylonian invention. A German architect named Hermann Sorgel proposed during the first half of the 20th century a plan called Atlantropa. His idea was to lower the level of the Mediterranean Sea by 656 feet through dams in Gibraltar and other strategic points. He claimed it would irrigate the Sahara Desert, generate massive amounts of electricity, and create new arable lands, but the project was never carried out. At the end of the 15th century, someone accidentally fell into a cavity on the Esquiline Hill in Rome and discovered the Domus Aurea Palace, built by Emperor Nero centuries earlier. Upon hearing of it, artists such as Raphael, Michelangelo, and Pinturicchio descended with ropes to copy the frescoes. This site inspired numerous works of the Renaissance. In Australia, Michael Jackson's song Beat It reached only third place on the charts, while the parody Eat It by musician Weird Al Yankovic reached first place. The single won the Grammy Award for Best Comedy Recording in 1984. Video game creator and director Hideo Kojima appears as a character in the game Metal Gear Solid 5 in a rescue mission. If the player manages to save him, he can be recruited as a soldier for their base. After the manga One Piece, the second best-selling comic of all time is Asterix, originally from France, with more than 390 million copies and translations into over 110 languages. It is such a successful franchise that it has a theme park near Paris, which reached a record attendance of nearly 2.5 million people in the year 2024. Users of Google Earth and Google Maps discovered a pentagram symbol drawn on the ground in a remote area of Kazakhstan, with a diameter of approximately 1,200 feet. Although many associated it with occult or evil meanings, investigations showed that it was simply the design of a star-shaped park. According to studies, 48% of the income generated by ballet performances during the holiday season comes from the Nutcracker, which has become a worldwide tradition. The first recognized stuntman was Frank Hanaway, who performed in the 1903 film The Great Train Robbery. He earned the role because of his ability to fall off a horse without injury. A YouTuber opened a fake McDonald's restaurant for a day in Iceland, one of the few countries in the world without branches of the chain. Although he could not sell original hamburgers, he placed a statue of Ronald McDonald and displayed the last real hamburger sold in that country in the year 2009, which surprisingly has not decomposed. Many beekeepers earn more money renting bees than selling honey, as they are essential for crop pollination during flowering. However, this requires additional logistics, trucks, special care, and control of the bees' stress during transport. An eruption of the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii in the year 2018 altered the terrain so much with solidified lava that it added an extra area to the island equivalent to 496 football fields. Many brands have registered ownership of a specific color. For example, the brown of UPS, the blue of Tiffany, the orange of Home Depot, the pink of Barbie, the yellow of 3M Post-its, the yellow-green of John Deere tractors and machinery, and the purple inhalers of GSK, among others. Corn is the result of many centuries of selective cultivation by native civilizations of the American continent. Its wild ancestors still exist and are known as teosinte. The traits that changed over time include the branching of the stalk, the size of the ears, and the number of kernels per cob. Today, they look unrecognizable compared to their original form. The house from the series Malcolm in the Middle was rented by the production for between $3,000 and $4,000 per day. It was only used for exterior shots since the interior scenes were filmed on a set. The owner of the house ended up earning around $100,000 during the time the series was filmed. In the movie The Theory of Everything, the term black hole is used several times in scenes set in 1963. However, this would not be possible because, although the concept existed, it was originally called a singularity before physicist John Wheeler popularized the term black hole in 1967. The first credit cards had no security features. Stores would make an imprint using carbon paper of the embossed numbers and the customer's signature, which they later sent to the bank to record the transaction. The mechanical seed drill invented by Jethro Tull in 1701 changed planting forever. It modified seeds and placed them in rows at a consistent depth before covering them. It marked the beginning of agricultural mechanization. The band Jethro Tull is named in his honor. The most expensive Broadway musical was Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark, which cost about $75 million due to its complexity. It had to be modified many times because the acrobats were constantly injured. It ran for only 3 years, from 2011 to 2014. The original Snow White movie was going to have 16 dwarfs instead of 7. They were included in preliminary sketches of the characters. This fact was discovered almost 80 years after its release when pieces of original artwork from 1937 were auctioned. After the movie based on the video game Assassin's Creed did not perform as expected at the box office in the year 2016, other film adaptations in development, such as The Sims and Mega Man, were canceled by Disney, which had just acquired Fox. The streets of the Garland neighborhood in Texas are named after characters from the series South Park, such as Cartman Road, Garrison Way, Mackey Street, and McCormick Street. This is because real estate companies that develop neighborhoods can choose the names, and in this case, a fan of the show proposed them. The character of Edna Mode in the movie The Incredibles is inspired by Hollywood costume designer Edith Head, who won a record 8 Academy Awards in that category. She was known for her perfectionism and her distinct style, always seeking creative solutions under pressure, just like the animated character. The reason the most popular shape for a piggy bank is a pig comes from an old play on words. In Middle English, pig was a type of clay used to make jars where coins were stored. Over time, the word describing the clay disappeared, and artisans associated it with pig, the animal. Moreover, the pig represents prosperity and good luck in several European countries, so the tradition endured. The best-selling product in Canadian stores is Kraft macaroni and cheese, to the point of being considered a national dish. Canadians consume it more per capita than any other country, often as dinner and with additions such as sausages. Asphalt pavement is one of the most recycled materials in the world. In the United States, more than 95% of recovered asphalt is reused by adding it to new mixtures. On average, new asphalt contains about 22% recycled material. In India, it is traditional for families to save money in the form of gold jewelry. They buy pieces, wear them as ornaments or gifts, and display them at weddings and celebrations as they represent the family's financial security. Besides being an investment that retains its value against inflation and devaluation, it also holds great cultural and aesthetic significance. If an average human of 70 kilograms were divided by chemical composition and the industrial value of each element, such as carbon, calcium, magnesium, or iron, were calculated, the total sum would amount to approximately between $100 and $200, according to estimates. Due to elevator safety regulations in several countries, the door close buttons almost never work properly. In many cases, they only function during emergency mode or are not even connected. This varies depending on whether the elevator is for public or private use. The California Festival Coachella belongs to Golden Voice, a subsidiary of AEG, which is controlled by billionaire Philip Anschutz. For years, his corporation and foundation made donations to conservative causes, drawing criticism from festival-goers as it contradicts the event's promoted values. The businessman has repeatedly denied such claims. The Corona program satellites, which began in 1959 and took the first satellite photos in the world, worked with photographic film rolls that, when full, were ejected in capsules toward the atmosphere. They then descended by parachute and had to be caught midair by airplanes equipped with hooks. If not recovered, they self-destructed to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The name of turkeys tells a confusing geographical story. In English, they are called Turkey, like the country. In Portuguese, Peru, also like the country. In Turkish, they are called Hindi, meaning from India. In Irish, Calcoan, from Calcutta, while their original name in Nahuatl, Guajilot, comes from Huexalal. In Europe, it was believed that they came from eastern lands, which is why they were associated with India. In almost no other country in the world is it common to display flags outside homes year-round as in the United States. In France or Great Britain, it is frowned upon and associated with nationalist ideologies. In Germany, except in special cases, the only flags commonly displayed are those of the parliament. Starting from Earth, the most difficult place to reach is the Sun. To get there, a spacecraft must slow down enough to cancel Earth's orbital velocity of about 19 miles per second, which requires an enormous amount of fuel. Curiously, escaping the solar system would require less effort. The Ottoman Empire's 2.5-pound banknote is a collectible item due to its unusual denomination. It was issued in 1916, during a period of inflation and coin shortages in what is now Turkey. The closest banknotes in value were the 1- and 5-pound notes. It is estimated that there are around 800 artificial objects on the Moon left behind by human missions. These include tools, module components, rovers, flags, golf balls, a self-portrait of astronaut James Irwin, 100 $2 bills, shoes, and other items. One day, someone will have to clean it all up. A trick archaeologists use to distinguish between a rock and a fossilized bone is to touch it with their tongue. If it sticks slightly, it's bone, since it's porous. If not, it's rock. Though today, more precise and less culinary methods exist. Ryan Reynolds admitted that he personally financed and leaked the Deadpool test footage that went viral in the year 2014. Thanks to the fans' reaction, the studio approved the movie, which, with a budget of $58 million, grossed more than $780 million. Mario Brothers was created after Nintendo wanted to make a Popeye video game, where the sailor would be the hero, Olive the damsel, and Bluto the villain. When they failed to obtain the license, Shigeru Miyamoto created Jumpman, who would later become Mario, alongside Pauline and Donkey Kong in 1981. A year later, after acquiring the Popeye license, they released a game with almost identical gameplay. The smell of wet earth or rain, called petrichor, is produced by a chemical compound named geosmin. The human sense of smell is so sensitive that it can detect concentrations as low as 0.4 of a part per billion. It is believed that this sensitivity is linked to human survival. Greenland has areas farther east, west, north, and south than Iceland, as if it completely surrounded it. Shirley Temple, Hollywood's most famous child star of the 1930s, later had a distinguished diplomatic career. She was the United States ambassador to Ghana and to Czechoslovakia during the fall of communism. Her daughter was the bassist for the grunge pioneer band Melvins. The photo of the Wright brothers' first flight was taken by John T. Daniels, who had never used a camera before. That day, he not only took his first picture, but also witnessed the first flight in history. A piranha's bite has a force equivalent to 30 times its body mass. In proportion to its size, its bite is stronger than that of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Kangaroos sometimes enter shallow water when they fight or feel threatened. They do it to gain an advantage. If their opponent follows, they can use their front legs to hold it underwater and drown it. This has happened even with dogs and humans. Listening to music is one of the few activities that activates all areas of the brain. In addition to the auditory regions, it stimulates those linked to emotion, memory, movement, and attention. Since the creation of the International Space Station, the average number of people in space at any given time has been 7. However, in the year 2023, a record of 20 people was reached due to simultaneous missions from China's Tiangong station and other space agencies. Steve Jobs' biological father was a Syrian academic who emigrated to the United States and owned a restaurant in Silicon Valley, where Jobs lived with his adoptive family. It is said they met several times at that restaurant without knowing they were related. Aspartame was discovered in 1965 when chemist James M. Schlatter was synthesizing an ulcer medication and accidentally touched his finger to his mouth, noticing an intensely sweet taste. Its sweetening power is about 200 times greater than that of sugar. According to a study that analyzed more than 126,000 rumors, false news spreads faster, farther, and lasts longer than true news because people tend to share what seems new, even if it is doubtful. Woodpeckers have a tongue so long that, when retracted, it wraps around their skull. That structure, along with their cranial anatomy, allows them to withstand impacts over 1,000 times the force of gravity without brain damage. The rarest type of star in the universe is the Wolf-Rayet, a brief phase in the life of massive stars that lose almost all their hydrogen and helium, leaving exposed highly ionized elements before exploding as supernovas. Only a few are known in the entire galaxy. The brain of a giant squid is shaped like a donut, and its esophagus passes right through the center. This means that everything it eats goes through the middle of the brain, so food that is too large could damage it. The band Duran Duran, which has sold more than 100 million records, once had 3 members with the last name Taylor, none of them related. The band's name comes from Dr. Duran Duran, a character in the science fiction movie Barbarella, starring Jane Fonda in 1968. Flea and Dave Navarro from Red Hot Chili Peppers played the bass and guitar on Alanis Morissette's hit You Oughta Know from 1995. Additionally, Taylor Hawkins, who would later become the drummer for Foo Fighters, played drums during the Singers tour that same year. The global video game market generated $182 billion in the year 2024. Approximately 70% of the revenue came from free-to-play games with microtransactions, a model that continues to grow every year across all platforms. Some fruits and vegetables require extensive care before reaching supermarkets. Bananas, for example, are transported while still green and kept cold, then undergo a rapid ripening process where ethylene gas is applied, and the temperature is raised so they are ready for sale. The T-28 Super Heavy Tank was an experimental American vehicle designed in 1945. It weighed more than 99 tons and could move at a maximum speed of 8 miles per hour. It was intended to break through fortifications. It was lost for decades and rediscovered in 1974 in a storage field. The first DVD discs were sold in Japan in 1996, featuring collections of music videos and some movies. In the rest of the world, they became popular starting in 1997. The first movie released simultaneously on DVD and VHS was Twister, and the first that sold more on DVD than VHS was The Matrix. The metropolitan area of La Paz, Bolivia, has the largest urban cable car network in the world. It spans more than 19 miles and has 10 lines, serving as the backbone of the city's public transportation system. It was created due to the great variations in altitude across the terrain. In the year 2015, the National Air and Space Museum in the United States held an exhibition of Wonder Woman's invisible plane. For several days, a ceremony was conducted, workers used cranes to install and clean it, and many people came to see it. Even though it was invisible, it was treated like any other historic aircraft. Companies valued at more than $1 billion are called unicorns. They usually take years to reach that level after their founding, but the one that did it the fastest was the artificial intelligence company Avant, which reached that valuation in the year 2012 in just 1 month and 16 days. The movie Dragon Ball Evolution from the year 2009 is considered a major failure. Even its screenwriter, Ben Ramsey, issued a public apology for making it without passion. Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, confessed that after watching it, he felt so irritated that he decided to get involved again with the franchise, which led to new movies and the series Dragon Ball Super a few years later. The rock band Motorhead re-recorded their song You Better Run with the lyrics changed to You Better Swim, including references to the ocean floor, for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. The song plays during the scene in which the characters enter the Roughnecks Tavern. The Portuguese man-of-war, also known as bluebottle, may look like a jellyfish, but it is actually a colony of specialized organisms that function as one. Its tentacles can reach up to 98 feet, and when they are detected on beaches, people are evacuated since their sting causes intense pain. The first commercial rechargeable batteries were developed in 1859. They used lead plates and were large and heavy. Later came nickel-cadmium and nickel-iron batteries. The current lithium ones have a much higher energy density and power devices such as smartphones. At Mercury's poles, there are craters so deep that sunlight has never reached their bottoms. Scientists discovered that there is frozen water there, even though the planet is the hottest in the solar system due to its proximity to the sun. According to undercover airport security tests, between 70 and 95% of prohibited items pass through controls undetected. In the year 2023, there were more than 300 reported cases of people crossing with illegal objects or bypassing checkpoints unnoticed. With only 18 lines of dialogue and less than 20 minutes of screen time, Aurora from Sleeping Beauty is the Disney main character with the least screen presence and fewest lines in an animated film by the studio. There is a book that compiles all the burgers of the day mentioned in the series Bob's Burgers during its first seasons. It contains 75 recipes created by real chefs and made it onto the New York Times bestseller list. The video game Kerbal Space Program, where players can build rockets and explore planets with realistic physics, was created by Mexican developer Felipe Falangui, who worked at an advertising agency. It was released in the year 2011 and became one of the most successful indie games, even used by NASA for educational purposes. The first human-made object to reach space was the V-2 rocket in 1944. It was a German ballistic missile that performed a suborbital flight. Its liquid fuel contained 30% water and 70% alcohol distilled from potatoes. Saudi Arabia has purchased farmland in several countries on every continent, especially in the United States and Argentina, to compensate for its lack of water and arable soil, since almost all its territory is desert and it has no rivers. A woman named Cha Sa-soon from South Korea holds the record for the most attempts to pass the driving test. She succeeded after 960 tries and more than $15,000 spent. The United States is the third most populous country in the world, with approximately 347 million inhabitants. Even if its population increased by 1 billion, it would remain third, since India and China each have more than 1,400,000,000 people. The cork of a champagne bottle can shoot out at speeds of up to 50 miles per hour. The pressure inside the bottle can be 3 times greater than that of a car tire. The Japanese video game Morita Shogi 64 for the Nintendo 64 console in 1997 had an integrated modem connection for online play across Japan. It was one of the first examples of online gaming for home consoles. The color of a chicken's eggs usually matches the color of its earlobes. If the lobes are white, the eggs are white. If they are red, the eggs are brownish. Some breeds even produce blue or green eggs. When Netflix split its DVD by mail service from its new streaming platform, it renamed the physical rental section as Quickster. The change was so unpopular that the company's stock dropped 77%, so it returned to the original name. If all the humans on the planet participated in a rock-paper-scissors tournament, the absolute winner would have to win 33 consecutive duels to defeat more than 8 billion players. They would undoubtedly be the luckiest person in the world. Scientists managed to bring back to life a plant that was 32,000 years old. It was regenerated from fruit tissue found in the Siberian permafrost, the permanently frozen layer. The researchers succeeded in growing 36 plants that bloomed and produced seeds. The economy of the game Old School RuneScape is so complex that the developing company had to raise the tax in the Grand Exchange, where players buy and sell, to 2% in order to drain gold and reduce in-game inflation. When players found out, some organized protests. The Chinese movie Neza 2 from the year 2025 became the highest-grossing film in China's history and the most successful animated movie ever, with more than $2,200 million earned. The version dubbed in English and other languages will be released soon. In the 1990s, the Sultan of Brunei and his brother accumulated a collection of thousands of cars, most of them luxury models. Years later, they returned some to the state, but according to recent photographs, thousands of vehicles remain abandoned, covered in dust, without maintenance or plans for display. In 1969, Seiko released the Astron, the world's first quartz watch. It was so precise that instead of losing several seconds per day, it deviated by only about 5 seconds per month. It cost the same as a compact car but marked the beginning of a revolution in the watchmaking industry since Seiko released the patents for other manufacturers to develop their own quartz mechanisms. At the highest point of Milan's cathedral stands a statue called the Golden Virgin of the Duomo. There is a tradition that it must always remain at the city's highest point. Since the cathedral measured 328 feet and was the tallest building, when 3 taller buildings were later constructed, each one had to place its own replica of the Virgin to maintain this symbolic rule. The 4 main airlines in the United States usually lose money transporting passengers, but they remain profitable thanks to loyalty programs and credit card partnerships. These agreements, which involve selling miles to banks and partners, generate huge income and sustain the industry. Without them, airline tickets would be much more expensive. McDonald's sells more than 1 billion Happy Meals with toys each year, making it one of the world's largest toy distributors. Due to the environmental impact of this production, the company announced measures to reduce the use of new plastics by 90% compared to the year 2018. The cotton-top tamarin is a monkey from northwestern Colombia that spends its entire life in trees, never coming down, not even to drink water. It obtains moisture from fruit and humidity in the air. It is currently endangered due to deforestation. Actor Keanu Reeves voiced a cat in the movie Keanu, in which comedians Key and Peele must rescue their pet. At first, Reeves declined the role, but after watching the trailer and at his sister's suggestion, he agreed to make a brief cameo in a dream sequence. There are more than 13,000 Brazilian soccer players playing in foreign leagues. France ranks second with about 1,000 players, and Argentina is third with a similar number. In 1992, comic musician Weird Al Yankovic released Smells Like Nirvana, a parody of the hit Smells Like Teen Spirit. He asked Kurt Cobain for permission, who agreed when he learned that the song was about how hard it was to understand his lyrics and not about food. The parody video even featured some extras from the original. K-pop Demon Hunters became the second most-watched movie in Netflix history and broke several records. However, Sony, the studio that produced it, earned only $20 million in net profit after deducting costs. Even so, it is expected to become a multi-million-dollar franchise. Foods with more vitamin C per gram than oranges include guavas, blackcurrants, red peppers, kiwis, strawberries, broccoli, parsley, spinach, and Brussels sprouts. The orange's fame as the main source of vitamin C is due more to marketing than nutritional reality. Intel, which once dominated the processor market, has faced difficulties in recent years. Its new generation of chips failed to reach expected performance levels, reducing profit margins and leading to massive layoffs, including its chief executive officer. Rivals such as AMD, TSMC, and NVIDIA have surpassed it. The world's oldest stadium still in operation is Sandygate, home of Hallam FC in Sheffield, United Kingdom. Opened in 1804, it has a capacity of 1,665 people. The first match between clubs was played there in 1860. People and the media tend to remember accurate predictions and forget the failed ones. This phenomenon is known as the Jeane-Dixon effect, named after a famous astrologer who had a few correct predictions and many wrong ones, though only the accurate ones are remembered. The Barkley Marathon's race in Tennessee, United States, is considered the toughest in the world. Runners must cover about 100 miles through forested terrain without trails, climbing and descending mountains in under 60 hours. Since 1995, only 20 people have completed it. Actress Elizabeth Taylor divorced 7 times in 45 years, which equals 1 divorce every 6.5 years. She was surpassed only by Zsa Zsa Gabor, who also had 7 divorces, but in 40 years. OLED screens do not need a backlight like LCDs, as each pixel lights itself. This allows for deeper blacks, more vibrant colors, and thinner, more flexible screens. However, they degrade over time and can retain images if left static for too long. During the economic crisis of 2008, the combined wealth of all billionaires fell by nearly 50%. By the year 2011, it had recovered, while the median household wealth fell by 39% between 2008 and 2010. In countries where voting is mandatory, such as Australia, participation is much higher than in other places. However, curious phenomena also appear, such as the donkey vote, in which candidates listed first on the ballot receive more votes simply because of their position. The Dani language, spoken in New Guinea, uses only 2 words to distinguish all colors: Mili, which groups cool and dark tones like blue, green, and black, and Mola, which refers to warm and light tones like red, yellow, and white. This system is based on the perception of light and temperature, not on specific names. Hatley Castle in Victoria, Canada, built in 1908, has been used in multiple productions as Lex Luthor's mansion in Smallville, Queen Mansion in Arrow, and as the school in the X-Men and Deadpool movies. Today, it is part of a university. The president of the Maldives, Mohammed Nasheed, proposed allocating part of the country's tourism revenue to purchase land in India, Sri Lanka, or Australia to relocate the population if the archipelago were to sink due to climate change. The plan lost momentum after he left office. When Martin Luther King Jr. won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964, his hometown, Atlanta, decided to hold a dinner in his honor. However, many businessmen refused to attend. The director of Coca-Cola intervened and warned that if Atlanta was not capable of honoring a Nobel laureate, the company would relocate. Finally, the event took place with great attendance. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, later worked as a car salesman at a dealership in Beverly Hills. In 6 months, he did not manage to sell a single car. In the Aztec Empire, cacao had several uses. It was used as tribute, as a means of payment, and as food. The beverage called Xocolatl, made from cacao, had a ritual and aristocratic nature. In its ceremonial version, it was flavored with vanilla or chili. The casing of the PlayStation 5 console and the cover of the DualSense controller have a microtexture made up of thousands of tiny icons of the classic buttons: cross, circle, triangle, and square. This hidden detail, aside from being a fun reference, gives the surface a special texture and a sense of quality. The manga market in Japan reached a record of more than $4,700 million in the year 2024. Digital sales already account for more than 70% of the total. The countries that buy the most manga after Japan are France and the United States. To produce a single tablespoon of honey, different bees must fly a combined total of about 2,500 miles and visit approximately 90,000 flowers. This calculation is an estimate based on observations and demonstrates that honey production is one of nature's most impressive collective efforts. According to catalogs, the most common Lego piece in current sets is the 1x2 plate since it is used to connect structures and add details. The 1x1 plate is also among the most manufactured. According to food labeling regulations in the United States, if a product contains less than 200ths of an ounce of an ingredient, it can be rounded down to 0 on the label. That is why Tic Tac candies list 0 sugar, even though each piece contains about 1,700ths of an ounce. In reality, they are 100% sugar. The city where the movie The Truman Show was filmed actually exists. It is called Seaside and is located in Florida. Its construction began in 1981, and its pastel-colored houses give it an artificial look, as if it were an enormous movie set. At an altitude above 63,000 feet, one reaches the Armstrong limit, where atmospheric pressure is so low that water boils at body temperature. Without protection, the lungs cannot perform oxygen exchange, which is why pressurized cabins or suits are required. In India, there are living bridges formed from interwoven tree roots. They are resistant to floods and grow stronger over time. Some are over 500 years old and still in use. The Alaskan Malamute dog, bred to pull sleds, became the official state dog of Alaska in the year 2010. It all started with a letter from a kindergarten student who wondered why his state did not have a symbolic dog. 3 years later, the proposal was approved. In 1996, Norwegian explorer Borge Ausland completed the first solo crossing of Antarctica from coast to coast, covering nearly 1,860 miles. In the year 2001, he repeated the feat by crossing the North Pole from Siberia to Canada on foot. The most remote library in the world is located on the most isolated inhabited island, Tristan da Cunha. It is inside St. Mary's School and serves as a community resource with only a few books. To reach it, one must travel by ship from Cape Town, South Africa. Actor Prem Nazir holds the world record for the most movies released in a single year, with 39 in 1979. He also holds the record for the most leading roles, all in Malayalam cinema, a regional branch of India's film industry. Freeze-dried instant coffee is made by preparing liquid coffee, freezing it, and then removing the ice through sublimation in vacuum chambers. This method preserves the oils and aromas better than the traditional hot air drying process. Crows can remember human faces they consider dangerous for years and share that information with other crows. Experiments with masks demonstrated their social learning. If one crow identifies someone as a threat, that reputation is passed on, even through generations. In the movie Escape from New York, there is a scene that shows what appears to be a computer model of the city. However, no digital effects were used for that shot. They took the city model used for other scenes and placed green tape on it that glowed under ultraviolet light, achieving a convincing effect on a low budget. The 1 and 2 cent euro coins are the most produced, with tens of billions in circulation. However, there are ongoing debates about whether they should stop being made since their value may be lower than the cost of their material and production. In zoos around the world, young cheetahs are given companion dogs with whom they can play and learn social cues. This helps reduce their stress from living in captivity. The murmuration of starlings is a natural phenomenon in which thousands of birds fly in synchronized motion, forming dynamic shapes in the sky as if they were a single living cloud. Each bird responds to the movements of its 7 closest neighbors, creating complex and coordinated patterns that protect them from predators. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson was partly responsible for Pluto being reclassified as a dwarf planet. In the year 2000, when he directed the Hayden Planetarium in New York, he removed Pluto from the exhibits. Although he received angry letters from children, years later the International Astronomical Union confirmed his reasoning. Harvard University's Central Library exists thanks to the Titanic. An alumnus, Harry Elkins Widener, died in the shipwreck. His mother donated a large sum of money to build the library in his honor, which now bears his name and houses more than 70 million books. Before the electric telegraph, France had a visual communication system based on towers with moving arms that transmitted messages through light and position signals. It was a kind of optical telegraph capable of sending words across long distances. Sleeping helps the brain reorganize memories, eliminate irrelevant details, and reinforce learning, improving problem-solving abilities the next day. So if you fall asleep after watching this video, you will more easily remember all the facts. The phrase "open sesame" from the classic story 1001 Nights first appeared in the French translation from 1704. It refers to the way the pod of the sesame plant opens naturally and suddenly to scatter its seeds. Over time, the expression became synonymous with opening something magical or inaccessible, and today it remains alive in popular culture, even in movies, cartoons, and video games. In Seoul and other cities of South Korea, having rock pets has become popular. People name and decorate them, using them as emotional relief or a stress relief method. Even K-pop celebrities have their own. Korea is one of the countries with the highest social and work pressure in the world. The molds in the Lego factory work with a precision of 4/10,000ths of an inch, less than the diameter of a red blood cell. Thanks to that accuracy, only 18 pieces per million come out defective. This precision is the reason why the blocks fit perfectly even decades later, guaranteeing compatibility between new and old pieces around the world. There are bacteria that can influence mood. In the year 2013, the so-called psychobiotics were discovered, live microbes that, when ingested in adequate doses, produce neurotransmitters such as GABA and serotonin, modulating the gut-brain axis. They could reduce stress and depression, although their use in humans is still under study. Since issue number 10 of the Fantastic Four comic, published in 1963, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby appeared within the story as characters. This was one of the first popular examples of breaking the fourth wall in comics. The idea of including the creators themselves within the fiction influenced later generations of storytellers. The development of the video game Grand Theft Auto 6 will have an estimated cost of $2 billion, making it the most expensive entertainment production in history, surpassing Avengers: Endgame. This enormous budget reflects the ambition of the project and the evolution of the video game industry, which already surpasses cinema and music combined in revenue. In Poland, there is an abandoned salt mine turned into a tourist attraction. Inside it, there is a cathedral carved directly into the salt rock by miners. It is one of the most impressive underground temples in the world. Its sculptures, lamps, and reliefs made entirely of salt show the dedication and hidden art of the workers who spent decades underground. A photograph taken in Virunga National Park in the Democratic Republic of the Congo went viral in 2019. In it, two gorillas appear posing next to a park ranger. The animals were imitating the human caretakers they lived with daily. The rocky island of Mont Saint-Michel in Normandy, France, receives more than 2.5 million tourists per year. Despite that, fewer than 30 people live there permanently, mostly monks, nuns, and local workers. When the tide rises, the path to the island disappears under the water, turning it for a few hours into an isolated fortress, which increases its mysticism and charm. The makeup and costume of Jim Carrey in the movie The Grinch were so complicated that the actor needed training from a CIA specialist in torture resistance. Each makeup session lasted 8 hours, and he repeated the process for 92 days of filming. Pistachios can generate heat through oxidation due to their high oil content and low humidity. In poorly ventilated warehouses or ships, they can reach temperatures of spontaneous combustion, so they must be stored with caution. This natural chemical phenomenon has caused fires in the past and continues to be a subject of study in the food industry. Stereolithography, one of the three-dimensional printing methods, was created in 1984 by Chuck Hull. It consists of using a laser or an ultraviolet light screen to solidify resin layer by layer. Today, it remains one of the most precise techniques. Venus takes 243 Earth days to complete a rotation on its axis, while its year lasts 225 days. It is the only planet that rotates more slowly than it orbits. Its dense atmosphere acts as a brake that alters its rotation over time. In addition, it spins in the opposite direction to most of the planets in the solar system, a mystery that still intrigues astronomers. Octopuses have 500 million neurons, but only one-third are in the brain. The rest are distributed throughout the tentacles, which can move and react on their own. Their nervous system functions more like a decentralized network than a centralized brain. This structure gives them a unique intelligence, capable of solving problems, opening jars, and learning by observation. Avocado oil is one of the healthiest for cooking, as it is obtained through cold pressing and has a smoke point close to 482 degrees Fahrenheit, preventing the formation of harmful substances such as acrylamides. In addition, it contains monounsaturated fats and antioxidants that benefit cardiovascular health. Near Sucre, Bolivia, there is an almost vertical limestone wall with more than 5,000 footprints from at least 8 species of dinosaurs. It is known as the dinosaur dance floor. The footprints date back about 68 million years. The most common birthdays occur between September 9th and September 20th, approximately 9 months after the December holidays, when conception increases. Since the rise of scheduled cesarean sections, births are more concentrated on weekdays than on weekends. This curious pattern shows how customs and modern planning have altered the nature of births. At the beginning of the 2000s, about 200 phonograph cylinders with recordings of classical music by Bach, Chopin, and Wagner, made at the end of the 19th century, were rediscovered. They were thought to be lost, but they were restored and digitized. Thanks to this, today we can listen to historical performances that reveal forgotten styles and nuances from another era. Giant tube worms were discovered in 1977 at a depth of 8,200 feet in the ocean. They reach up to 6.5 feet in length and have neither a mouth nor intestines. They depend on internal bacteria that process hydrogen sulfide. This ecosystem functions without sunlight, relying only on chemical energy. Their discovery changed the way we understand life in extreme environments. The White House commissions personalized Sharpie markers with the presidential seal and the president's signature. Their ink is more indelible than the commercial version to ensure that official signatures do not fade over time. These markers are used in ceremonies, decrees, and diplomatic gifts, becoming coveted collector's items. The record for the fastest tire change in Formula One history was 1.80 seconds, achieved by McLaren mechanics on Lando Norris's car during the Qatar Grand Prix in the year 2023. The previous record belonged to Red Bull, with 1 second and 82 hundredths in Brazil in 2019. These tire changes, executed with millimetric precision, show the extreme level of coordination that exists in elite motorsport. At the end of the Apollo 15 mission on the Moon, in 1971, astronaut David Scott wanted to test Galileo's theory. He dropped a feather and a hammer at the same time, and without air resistance, both objects hit the lunar surface simultaneously. The first program of instructions was not for a computer, but for a loom. In 1810, inventor Joseph Marie Jacquard used punched cards to automate fabrics with complex designs. Each card contained simple orders about which threads to lift, anticipating the concept of software. This invention not only transformed the textile industry, but also inspired Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace in the early steps of modern computing. Penguins have a natural system for desalinating water. They can drink salt water and, thanks to a gland near the beak, expel the salt in the form of droplets or salty sneezes. This mechanism allows them to survive in environments where fresh water is scarce, showing an impressive evolutionary adaptation. In the series Community, there is an episode where, in the background of several scenes, the character Abed helps a woman give birth. It all happens while the main characters are talking, as a hidden detail that few notice. The series is famous for its attention to Easter eggs. Independent bookstores in the United States have grown by more than 11% each year. More stores are opening than closing, showing a global revival of interest in physical books. India is YouTube's #1 market. More than 460 million unique users access the platform every month, representing 18% of the total audience. The expansion of mobile internet and the low cost of data have driven this massive growth. The small hole found on the lids of disposable cups for hot drinks, such as coffee, was patented in 1953. It allows air to enter while drinking, preventing a vacuum that could cause splashes. It also helps the coffee cool slightly before reaching the mouth. This simple design detail changed the way millions of people enjoy their drinks every day without even noticing it. Daft Punk took 4 years to record their album Random Access Memories with a budget of $1 million. The French musicians insisted on recording everything on analog tape, as it was done during the golden age of studios. It is one of the best-selling vinyl records of the new millennium. The unusual flavors of Jelly Belly candies are created through a technique called gas chromatography, which allows the chemical profile of a characteristic smell, such as buttered popcorn, to be analyzed and reproduced in a laboratory. In the same way, the unpleasant flavors of the Bean Boozled line, such as mucus or rotten egg, are also produced. When Porsche manufactured tractors, most of them ran on diesel. However, they made a special model for coffee growers in Brazil called Coffee Train, of which only 300 units were produced, since diesel smoke altered the flavor of the coffee. For that reason, they used gasoline engines instead. These rare tractors became collector's items and represent a lesser-known chapter in the brand's history. NVIDIA's Chief Executive Officer Jensen Huang and AMD's Chief Executive Officer Lisa Su are distant cousins. Both emigrated from Taiwan to the United States during childhood and later became leaders in the semiconductor industry. Electric eels generate powerful discharges thanks to thousands of cells called electrocytes, organized like batteries. Each one produces only a fraction of a volt, but when connected in series they reach up to 600 volts, enough to stun prey or defend themselves. These animals inspired the scientists who developed the first biological batteries. There are epoxy putties so powerful that they have saved ships from sinking. This material can adhere even underwater, since when the resin is mixed with the hardener, it forms a solid molecular network resistant to water, capable of sealing leaks permanently. In addition, its versatility allows repairs ranging from pipes to metal structures, making it an essential tool in maritime and engineering emergencies. The first significant role of actor Pedro Pascal was that of a college student who was bitten in an episode of the series Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 1999. The minimum wage from that job allowed him to pay 1 month of rent and continue his acting career. The company Sanrio, founded by Shintaro Tsuji in 1960, began by selling silk products and later moved on to items featuring characters. Currently, its main business is licensing more than 400 characters, including Hello Kitty, Cinnamoroll, Kuromi, and Pachaco. Roman concrete, used more than 2,000 years ago, has the ability to self-repair. It contains minerals such as quicklime that, when in contact with water, seal cracks. Thanks to this, ancient structures such as ports and temples still stand. Modern engineers study how to replicate it, hoping to create more sustainable and durable materials inspired by the wisdom of the past. Greenland sharks grow only 0.4 inches per year, and their heart beats between 4 and 6 times per minute. Thanks to their slow metabolism and cell repair mechanisms, they can live for more than 400 years, making them the longest-lived vertebrates known. Their lives unfold in frozen depths, far from light and human contact. Some orb-weaving spiders use the vibrations of their webs as an extension of their sense of hearing, precisely detecting the movement of prey or predators. These vibrations are so subtle that they can distinguish the type of insect caught or even communicate with other spiders. Writer Stephen King said that his wife asked him to stop listening repeatedly to the song Mambo No. 5 by Lou Bega while writing because he played it non-stop. Since then, he only listens to electronic or techno music. Modern Persian cats share more DNA with British breeds than with Middle Eastern cats. The idea of their Eastern origin and their name were marketing strategies during the Victorian era. In 1986, Michael Jackson bought a hyperbaric chamber to help in the recovery of his injuries. He later donated it to a hospital, but tabloids falsely claimed that he slept in it every day to live 150 years. The premiere of the show Saturday Night Live on October 11, 1975, was chaotic. 90 minutes before going live, they had neither a set nor a complete script. The phrase "live from New York, it's Saturday night" was improvised that day and became a tradition that continues after 50 seasons. A law in Australia requires online betting companies to replace the phrase "gamble responsibly" with more reflective ones, such as "imagine what you could be buying instead, or you win some, you lose more." If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.